I once drove through a stretch of Kansas and saw nothing, and I mean nothing, for miles. Just flat land, a crumbling foundation, and a grain elevator that looked like it hadn't been touched since 1910. And I kept thinking, someone built a whole town here. Someone raised kids here. Someone opened a bank here. What went wrong? Turns out a lot went wrong. 12 times over, actually. So today, we're digging into every single one of those ghost towns and exposing the catch that killed them. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Number 1, Octagon City. Picture this. It's 1856, and a guy named Henry Clubb is selling you a vegetarian utopia in Kansas. Not a metaphor, an actual utopia. 8-sided city layout, a school, a sawmill, a grist mill, communal living. The brochure was basically a 19th century Instagram ad, and people bought it hard. Real money, packed up lives, the whole deal. But here's what nobody tells you. None of it existed. No sawmill, no grist mill, barely a road. Just flat, raw Kansas prairie and a few crude cabins. The Vegetarian Kansas Emigration Society. Yes, that was a real organization. Showed up expecting a city and found basically nothing. By the end of that same year, most settlers had already bailed. The whole thing collapsed in under 12 months. Let that sink in. Henry Clubb sold people a city that lived entirely in his head, collected their money, and delivered empty prairie. No buildings survived, no ruins, barely a historical marker. It's the ghost town that ghosted before it even got started. Number 2, Kofa Chic. So Octagon City was built on a dream. Kofa Chic was built on something even wilder. A centuries-old legend. Back in the 1540s, Spanish conquistador Francisco Vázquez de Coronado marched through Kansas looking for a kingdom called Quivira. Gold, treasure, the whole fantasy. He never found it. Nobody ever found it. But settlers in the mid-1800s named a town after that myth anyway. Like the name alone would somehow conjure the wealth. But here's what nobody tells you. The land near the Arkansas River flooded constantly. The railroad never came through, and the soil had zero interest in cooperating. Number 3, Treese. Okay, we need to talk about Treese, because every other town on this list died from bad luck or bad planning. Treese died because the ground itself turned toxic. Like, actually poisonous. Stand on it and get sick toxic. Treese was a lead and zinc mining town in the far southeastern corner of Kansas, right on the Oklahoma border. For decades, it boomed. Real money, real jobs, real community. But here's what nobody tells you. Mining leaves behind mountains of crushed rock called chat, and that chat was loaded with lead, cadmium, and zinc. Kids played on those piles. People breathed that dust every single day. By the 2000s, the EPA declared it part of the Tar Creek Superfund site, one of the most contaminated places in the entire United States. The government basically said, "We can't fix this, so we'll just pay you to leave." And people left. Treese voted to disincorporate in 2010. By 2013, it was gone. Not because people wanted to leave, but because staying was genuinely dangerous. Number 4, Terracotta. So here's a town that actually had a real business plan. Terracotta, Kansas existed because the local clay was genuinely perfect for making terracotta building materials. Real product, real demand, real jobs. Not a utopian dream, not a mining gamble, an actual industry. But here's what nobody tells you about one industry towns. What happens when that one industry stops needing you? Cheaper materials showed up. Bigger competitors with better transportation undercut the whole operation. And just like that, the demand dried up. No fallback, no plan B. The post office closed, the workers left, and terracotta literally returned to the earth it was built on. Number 5, Sibley. Some towns died because they never had enough going for them. Sibley had the opposite problem. It had everything, and then history just walked right past it. We're talking Missouri River access, a stone's throw from Fort Osage, a literal stop on the Pony Express. Lewis and Clark camped nearby. This place was supposed to be a major city. It had every reason to be. But here's what nobody tells you. All that history meant nothing when the railroads showed up and picked different routes. And Kansas City was right there, growing fast, pulling every business and settler toward it like a magnet. Number 6, Chetala. You want to know the single fastest way to kill a Kansas town in the 1800s? Don't run the railroad through it. That's literally it. Chetala in southeastern Kansas had settlers, businesses, and a whole community forming. The entire plan was simple. Wait for the railroad, then explode with growth. Ship crops out, bring goods in, attract more people. Easy, right? But here's what nobody tells you. Railroad companies didn't care where your town was. They cared about geography, construction costs, and which landowners cut them the best deals. The line moved a few miles over, and just like that, Chetala was done. Number 7, Ravenna. So county seat battles in 19th century Kansas were absolutely unhinged. We're talking fraud, political backstabbing, occasionally actual violence. Towns literally fighting each other for the right to host the courthouse. Because whoever got the courthouse got the lawyers, the traffic, the businesses. It was survival, plain and simple. Ravenna, in Finney County, wanted that crown bad. Settlers showed up, businesses open. People genuinely bet their lives on this town winning. It didn't. The county seat went elsewhere, and by 1922, even the post office was gone. Number 8, eminence. Here's something that sounds obvious, but apparently wasn't in the 1800s. If you're farming in a semi-arid region, you should probably confirm the rain isn't going to stop. Like ever. Eminence skipped that step. Settlers showed up during a wet cycle, when the rain was decent and the crops came in strong. So they built homes, opened businesses, planted roots. Kansas looked like it was actually going to cooperate for once. But here's what nobody tells you. Kansas weather runs in cycles, and the dry years always come back. Wells dropped, crops failed, families left, and never came back. Number 9, Thurman. This one hits different because progress did the killing. Thurman didn't lose a railroad or a mine or a political fight. It just got mathematically eliminated. Here's what nobody tells you about farming towns. When tractors replaced horses and combines replaced whole crews of workers, one farmer could suddenly work land that used to need dozens of families. And when you need fewer people, you need fewer towns. The hardware store closes, then the school, then the diner. Not because of one disaster, just one less family every single year until the math stops working. Number 10, Plum Grove. Plum Grove. Even the name sounds like somewhere you'd actually want to live, right? Pleasant, natural, a little cozy. And the settlers who showed up probably felt like they'd stumbled onto something real. But here's what nobody tells you. Plum Grove's whole problem was that it was just good enough. Not great, just almost. And in frontier Kansas, almost is the same as last place. Settlers looked around, compared their options, and picked the town with slightly better access or slightly more momentum. And momentum compounds fast. More people means more businesses. More businesses means more people. Plum Grove never got that going. Number 11, Belvoir. Belvoir. Even the name sounds fancy. It's French for beautiful view, and whoever picked it was clearly trying to sell a vibe. A little elegance, a little class, right there on the Kansas prairie. But here's what nobody tells you. The prairie didn't care about the branding. Not even a little. Belvoir faced the exact same brutal pressures every other town on this list faced. No railroad, shifting economics, people drifting toward bigger places. The fancy name bought it exactly 0 extra time. And that's what makes Belvoir stick with me. Settlers came to Kansas with so much hope, they named their towns things like Beautiful View. They built real lives. Then reality showed up. Number 12, Jerome. Jerome is the one that haunts me the most. No toxic waste, no utopian scam, no county seat war. Jerome just ran out of reasons to exist. And somehow that's the scariest story on this whole list. Settlers came, kids grew up there. Someone opened a general store and genuinely thought it was a long-term investment. The post office ran from 1886 all the way to 1943. For a while, everything looked fine. But here's what nobody tells you. Looking fine and being fine are two completely different things. The mechanization, the railroad consolidation, the slow drift toward cities, none of that skipped Jerome. It just got quieter every single year until there was nothing left. Kansas had thousands of towns platted in the 1800s. Most are gone. The ones that survived weren't better. They were just luckier. Sometimes the difference between a real city and a ghost town was literally 1 mile of railroad track. Let that sink in.